I want to take this moment to sincerely apologize for a topic that I brought up. Um,
Hey, what's up, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. My good name is Judy. So, in this episode, it took Esther from Under the Influence podcast 2 weeks to apologize to the black people for whatever she said. And if you watch that video when she was apologizing, it looks like those people, the cast, they were holding back the laughter, and it seems that they don't even care. So, the black people have totally refused to accept the apology, saying that it wasn't sincere. These are the clips of how the black people were reacting.
Off as a group of friends that were just talking about aimless topics that we thought were entertaining or funny. And so we realized that because our audience has grown and we have a bigger platform, we have to be more careful with what we say and come more factually correct if we do want to talk about a topic.
Yep, I think that's a big one.
Off the rip, this should have been a no-brainer. You guys have a large platform of 782,000 followers on TikTok and 280,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's not including Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. But you're just now realizing you need to be more careful what you say over the internet? With that big of a platform, I think it's common sense that you shouldn't just be saying anything. Second of all, why the fuck is Esther sitting there like she in timeout? I went out right in the walls at school looking at us. Another thing I want to mention is, where the fuck did y'all get that information about black women's vajayjays? Or like how black men and Asian men have big and small peepees? Like, that's what I want to know.
but I understand that even bringing it up was super inappropriate and harmful. And I've heard so many of you guys, especially in the black community and among black women. And like, I'm just sorry for perpetuating a harmful stereotype. And moving forward, I will no longer bring up any topics that could be harmful to anybody. I mean, we're all Asian, and
The fucking
we've
silence.
dealt with like pretty hateful like stereotypes as well. And I should have known better because
So there's a few things I wanted to point out in this video. Number one, she didn't address where she got that source from. So if she didn't have a source of where she found that stereotypical information, then it only leads to believe that she made it up. Number two, in the podcast where you said these things about black women, you knew that it was harmful because you said we may have to cut this out. So you were already conscious enough to know that this could have been harmful, and you still said it anyway. Number three, even though black women definitely got the most heat out of this, you also offended Asian men and Asian women with your harmful stereotype. Are we just going to forget that she also said that Asian men had small peepees and Asian women had tight lalas? If I'm not mistaken, that's a very negative stereotype towards Asian men and a very fetishizing of a comment towards Asian women. That's number four. She didn't even bother apologizing to her own community. One of the guys said in the video that we are human, we all make mistakes, and that's very true because I can definitely vouch for this. I made many mistakes. A lot of it was because of my own self-hatred and my own ignorance. The best way you can grow from this is to lay it all out on the table like a full flush of cards. Despite this apology, Esther, there's a lot of things you did not mention. And there's questions that still remain unanswered. And you're right, Esther, you should have known better. Which is wild because you are not a white woman, Esther. You are an Asian woman. Asian women and black women go hand in hand when it comes to negative stereotypes and fetishization and hypersexualization. Black and Asian men also fit in this category. When it comes to black and Asian people, I think we can all agree on that we was not expecting this level of ignorance coming from Under the Influence podcast. This is some shit that you would expect from white people, not Asians. But something else also caught my eye.
One thing I want to address that I'm not cool with whatsoever is the amount of death threats and violent threats that have been sent to Esther in this process. Like, it's just not okay in any situation.
Yeah, you learn to deal with it. I'm just kidding. Actually, that's kind of true. You kind of do learn to deal with the death threats. Like, the higher you are, the more shit you get. Yes, what Esther said was pretty fucked up. However, the violence and the death threats is not helping anybody, and it's definitely not going to help her in the matter. One last important point that I want to make. This guy right here has carried the entire fucking video. He made an apology towards women, or more specifically Korean women, about the ignorant statements that he made. I am not going to give my opinion on his apology, but what I will say, it was way better than Esther's. Esther did not address enough of the situation in her apology for me to even forgive her. And if I'm not forgiving her, then you know damn well black women ain't going to. I think what we need is a separate apology from Esther. Because this guy right here is doing too much of the talking. Also, this guy right here, the guy dressed in black, I'm well aware of his platform and who he is as a person. In the video where Esther stated those harmful stereotypes about black women, he did call it out. He told Esther that saying that is very racist and stereotypical on the podcast. As for this guy, he really didn't make enough comments for me to have an opinion on him, but he did mention that Esther was getting death threats like I showed in the video. But as for this guy, I can tell he has a little bit of brains on him. This entire video is planned out. If you watch the entire video again, he knows exactly what to say and when to say it. If he didn't plan this video, then he definitely led the approach, which also leads me to believe that he's the figure. He's the one with the head. So if there's going to be somebody that I paid the most attention to, it's this guy. Other than that, I shared my opinion. I think what's happening to Esther, she got on all very, very light. Because this definitely could have been a whole lot worse. But anyways, black women, let me know in the comments of what you guys think we should do with her.
Okay, y'all, let's all watch this apology made by Esther from the Under the Influence podcast.
Yeah, I want to take this moment to sincerely apologize for a topic that I brought up.
Yeah,
it
you brought
wasn't
it up.
my view or opinion, but I understand that even bringing it up was super inappropriate and
Okay,
harmful.
pause. So it wasn't her view or her opinion, but she brought it up just because, and started giggling with it. Okay.
Up was super inappropriate and harmful, and I've heard so many of you guys, especially in the black community and among black women, and like, I'm just sorry for perpetuating a harmful
Rather than a harmful stereotype, it is a blatant display of racism. Like, what's not clicking? Like,
I mean, we're all Asian, and we've dealt with, like, pretty hateful, like, stereotypes as well, and I should have known better because I've been hurt by those too, you know?
I get what you're saying, but right now you're basically victimizing yourself and being like, I know too, because I'm Asian. And it's true. Of course, Asians have gone through racism, stereotyping. Like, it's very true, but like, is now the time? I feel like you're more concerned about the money that's potentially, you know, drifting away rather than the sincerity of this apology.
Yeah, I don't know what to say other than that. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point here is that, like she said, we're all human.
Yes, of course. We are all humans, but we are not all racist. Okay, goodbye.
It's actually wild to me that they took 2 weeks to come up with a good and sincere apology, but they chose to start off with, hey, because now we have a big platform, we'll be careful of the things that we choose to say. But then they backed it up with, hey, you know, like when we first started, like we were just a group of friends that talked about what was entertaining and funny. Which makes it clear that what you thought is entertaining and funny is sexist and racist. Like, that is your core sense of humor collectively. And once again, it's wild that they missed this whole aspect because their whole video was focused on, hey, we're now aware that we said hurtful, misogynistic, racist things. We're no longer going to say them on the show because we have a big platform, versus these are the actual steps that we're going to take to become less racist, less misogynistic, less hateful people, so we become better human beings overall, versus just not saying them on a show because we have so many people listening to us.
If you're in their comments and you're not a black woman and you're defending them or accepting their apology, that is weirdo behavior. Don't do that.
Under the Influence is in the same spot Shits and Giggles was when they made their apology, because that shit was ass. Because while Under the Influence, I could tell they actually tried to take that shit serious, Shits and Giggles, they didn't take that shit serious. But when it came to Shits and Giggles, their shit seemed to actually planned out and they knew what they were going to say and how they wanted to do it. Under the Influence, dead ass seemed like they just weaned the fuck out of that shit. So it's like, whose here is worse? Because you could say, oh yeah, Esther and all of them, they were so scared to say shit, so you knew they were serious. But at the same time, every time someone talked, no one knew what the fuck to say. While when it came to Shits and Giggles, yeah, you can tell they wasn't serious, especially Fuha, because his ass couldn't even look at the fucking camera, yet they actually knew what they wanted to say and was very direct about the shit they were saying. And to me, it's just way more funny because two POC podcasts don't know how to address POC people.
I'm not going to spend too much time on this Esther Under the Influence podcast. I want people to understand something about black people, okay? The moment you really got one time with us, all right? If we are a fan of your stuff, and this particular message is for non-people of color and people of color too, but specifically non-people of color. You got one time, okay, to play with us, all right? There's not much you can say to us after that situation. When you're being racist or you're being anti-black in any shape or form. Okay? You can pretty much put that, you're not apologizing to us, you're apologizing to your fandom that might be non-people of color. Okay? That's just me being real, that's just me being honest. So I honestly did not hear the apology, nor do I give a fuck. I don't watch the podcast anyway, so I feel like I'm in the clear. So that's just all I got to say about that situation. You got one time to play with us, and that's it.
Okay, so I want black women to be clear. That apology wasn't for you at all. That apology was for major white corporations that weren't going to mess with them after the backlash of this. That apology was for the self-proclaimed social justice warriors that are their base that would feel weird about continuing to watch them after what they said. Never was that for black women. An apology that says we just need to watch what we say because of the level that we're at now, they're not sorry. They're sorry that they got caught. They're sorry that people care enough about them. Not me, but they're sorry that enough people care about them that this even became a thing.
Under the Influence, this one is for you. Esther girl, it's just a pick me. Because what did you expect people to do with that information? Misinformation. I'm not someone to come and speak on the internet about stupid controversies like cancel culture and stuff. But at the same time, like, I get tired of it. Like, I'm just sitting there in my room and I listen to what she had to say and what they had to say because they're all in it. But I was like, why? Why did black women do to you? The black community is not the only community to get racially profiled every day. But at the same time, it's always us. Like, you guys have a bone to pick with us. And for how long am I just gonna sit behind my screen and take it? I don't know. We've all done and said messed up things before. So that's why I'm trying to be graceful and, like, I don't trip too much when, like, I hear those type of stuff because nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But the thing is, you're on social media, girl. Like, think twice before opening your mouth. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure you guys had to rewatch that video before posting it. And nobody said anything. And I'm pretty sure that she knew that what she was about to say was gonna be harmful. But still said it anyway. Because she said, oh, should we cut it out? Before she said the thing, she asked if they should cut it out. That pretty much says that you didn't care. And you did start to care when people were giving you the hate. Be better. We all have to be better. That's what I'm gonna say about that.
So the podcast Under the Influence just came out with an apology video. If you don't know, they've been getting canceled for the last couple of weeks, which is valid. And I was a common listener to the podcast, and I was a supporter of the people on the podcast. I started listening to them a little bit around last year because I listened to Subber Talks, and Subber Talks is a fan of them. So I thought, like, support the support. You know what I mean? And a lot of shit that has been coming up, I do not remember hearing because I used to listen to UTI only at work in my ear. So a lot of shit that they said, I probably fucking zoned out. But just all the shit that I have seen on TikTok, fucking crazy. But anyways, they came out with an apology video. I watched a part of it. My whole thing is, if y'all are truly sorry, why are y'all blocking black women on y'all social media? Because I am blocked, and what's crazy is I didn't even send hate. I just confronted as a supporter how hurt I was that y'all are blocking people and not addressing it. So it's just kind of like your whole apology is just like shit because you're blocking people who are trying to educate you. So
I've had a few videos come up on my For You page recently talking about Esther from UTI. I couldn't remember it. And I feel like people are like, oh, I've never heard that, like, stereotype she's making up. But I feel like she's reverse psychologying the one I've heard, which I've literally been told by, like, people, like, even when I was a child, I heard this. It was like, that basically, like, they'll be like, oh yeah, Asian men have small D's, so Asian women have small, and it's so like really weird and like definitely like not actually based in any scientific reality. And I feel like Esther just like reverse psychology this and applied it to black women, which she has no business doing. But this is why I feel like I made a video a while back that I was talking about racial pick-me's, and people didn't really get what I was talking about. But I feel like they're really dangerous because they will use stereotypes about their race to try to make themselves look better and more appealing, while like enforcing the harmful aspects of those stereotypes against other people and even against their own people. And this is why I think it's really important to remember that even if a stereotype seems good on the surface, it's still not one you really want to embrace, because it's often used to weaponize against other people. Like, for instance, the whole model minority myth towards Asian Americans, which even if you look at that disaggregated data, you see that most Asian Americans are not like doing above white people. It's like Chinese and Indians, which has to do with the way the government allows those immigrants to come in. With the Hart-Celler Act, only people with like qualified jobs, like high skill education, were allowed to actually immigrate to this country and become citizens. And with the Indian government, they only allowed people to leave India if they had really high education, because they wanted to make sure that the like global impression of India wasn't like of a poor worker, but of like a high tech like industry kind of worker, like the very like educated computer science types. And you see that with China as well. So the ones who can come immigrate nowadays are usually highly educated or skilled, not like the poor laborers that used to come over in like the 1800s. And that kind of shapes the model minority myth. And everybody else is doing about on par with white people, or you realize that a lot of Southeast Asians and Pacific Islanders are doing like way like in poverty and dropping out of high school and have high rates of being not that well off. And it's completely missed because they look at the average of all Asian Americans, including like South Asians, East Asians, Southeast Asians, Pacific Islanders. It's like a really big group of people, and the people who do need help kind of get missed because they're just grouped in with the rest of everyone else. And then the whole model minority myth thing is used to basically shame black people, and like, oh, why are you not doing as well as Asians? Because, you know, you're both minorities, but clearly the American dream can happen. Well, Asians mostly didn't come to this country, couldn't hold citizenship until like the 1900s. And even then, like, it wasn't until I believe like 1965 that there was changed like restrictions for immigration. And before then it was like you couldn't immigrate if you couldn't speak English or pass like language exams, or like they had so many laws excluding citizenship for non-white people, not just with even with like black people. Dred Scott case, like you couldn't be citizen even if you were born in America as long if you were not white. And we really forget that part of history. So when you look at Asians' success, it's mostly because they were already successful in their home country before they came here. It's like they came from middle class backgrounds. They weren't the ones who were like refugees or in poverty for the most part. I didn't come across that well spoken in this video, and like I don't have as many sources on hand because I'm just kind of like talking right now, not based off of like researching something and trying to share about it, but just like I'm so frustrated that there are still people in the Asian American community who like try to embrace certain stereotypes that literally come from the degradation of our people. And like the whole like, oh, the Asians are more successful, that was used to spread yellow peril fears that we're going to come take over America with our cheap fast labor. And the whole like hypersexualization of Asian women was used to like restrict our citizenship, immigration, justify crimes against women, like, and it's just like they don't even see the way that like anti-blackness affects us too. And it's just like, even if you're not going to be against like racism for the sake of moral reasons, at least be against racism for the fact that it does not benefit you to side with the, like white supremacy. Like, I don't know, it's maybe they just grew up and they're too comfortable in their little bubble of like Orange County, like SoCal, just Asian. But even then, like a lot of civil rights movements came out of like Southern California. Like you'd think they would know that.
Hi, this is my first video ever that I'm posting to TikTok, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I wanted to come on here and add my 2 cents about the apology video from Under the Influence podcast show. And specifically, when Esther says that her view on Black women that she voiced in that video, the original one, is not her view or her opinion. And I want to talk about that. So first, it is your view and it is your opinion. Because why would you say something like that if you didn't feel some type of connection to it? Second, what needed to happen in this apology video is a discussion, a table discussion about exactly what was said, where it came from, why you felt compelled to say it, and what you can do better in the future to unlearn this opinion. And that is really what that type of conversation and video is what Black women deserved. Not what you gave was under the bare minimum. Let's just put it like that. So I just want to talk about the fact that it is a really important conversation that we need to have. Because, for one, I don't blame you for adopting that type of opinion. We develop our viewpoints from the environment that we grow up in, right? So if you grew up in an environment with other people who held that opinion, you are going to adopt the opinion. And it's just natural. That's how it works. But what I do blame you for is not being critical about such a hurtful stereotype. Not thinking about it more, asking yourself where it came from, why it's still here, and what function it serves. Because it's such a specific stereotype. So let's talk about it. So the stereotype is that Black women have loose vaginas. There's also another stereotype about Asian women and that they have tight vaginas. It's not a coincidence that these two stereotypes are so directly related and so opposite to one another. And we can speak a lot about what that does, what these stereotypes do to the two racial communities, Black women and Asian women, what it does to each one and how they relate to one another because of these stereotypes. And questions like that, why it's still here, what function it serves, are the type of conversations that we need to have, because we need to name it. First off is naming it. That's like what has to be done. Not once in that apology video did I see anyone reflect specifically on what was said about Black women. They kind of just beat around the bush. And I know it's uncomfortable to revisit what you said, but you have a responsibility to do so because it came out of your mouth and because it's so dehumanizing. And yeah, I think this conversation, apology video they could have gone 1,000 different ways with it, educational ways, but they chose not to. They chose to do under the minimum and just a very quick and easy apology and then shut the camera off. And I think that's unacceptable because you have all the tools and resources to research this topic, and it took you 2 weeks to make this apology video. In that 2 weeks, you could have done your research. You could have spoken to Black women, you could have educated yourself, and then come on to make an appropriate video. But you didn't. And that's what I have a problem.
So guys, do you think that was a sincere apology, or Esther drafted it, or she was forced to apologize? What do you think, guys? Let me know your opinions in the comment section. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and also like the video. Until next time, bye bye for now.